Good morning, zookeepers, and welcome back. Today we're on Planet Zoo, and we're going to be making an enclosure for the Asian water monitor. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. I've seen a few different people doing these, like really interesting, I'm going to call it a greenhouse build. Is probably the best way of saying it, or reptile house, where they sink the ground and then they like put the enclosure into the ground. I really like the idea of it. Most people have done it for crocodiles. I just thought I'd do it for the Asian water monitor. So I've done something similar-ish for my crocodiles, and I only have one more species of crocodile to make an enclosure for the first time for, and I'm kind of saving those for like another day. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to do this for the Asian water monitor. It feels like a really unnecessarily big enclosure for it, but I actually really enjoyed it. I feel like I would put a house especially just for this creature, because it is a really nice creature to go and see, and definitely something I was excited to make an enclosure for. Now, I see you doing pretty simple building this, trying to make it so it's a bit more sort of like textured on the outside by moving like the different pieces on certain areas so it stands out a bit more. And then we've done our ditch in the middle, obviously our path for our keepers to get down into, and then I'm just going to be doing this concrete rim for the customers to stand on and try and make it so it completely boxes off. Kind of looks like a really empty swimming pool at this point, which I really like the idea of. It looks kind of cool. We're going to put a lake at the bottom. I feel like in the corner we're going to do a cave with a heat light for their bedding kind of area. And knocking around the map, I'm going to be doing like a fair bit different enrichment. As well, I added a concrete base to the bottom of our pool so it looks like that the pool can be emptied so they can clean the enclosure. Adds to a bit more of a kind of like realistic sense, because you will have to empty the pool out at some point to clean it up, so you got to put the water somewhere, so it only kind of makes sense to do that kind of thing. We have like this little corner here which I will make into a slight staff area, kind of also sort of like storage area at the same time. As you can tell, I was having a bit of difficulties putting the gate down for the enclosure, but we got there in the end. To make it easier for myself, I sort of deleted a bit of the path and then just sort of did it at its own kind of range where it'd actually work. And then I just used these concrete slabs to make like a foundation for where we're going to be putting the chainmail fence down a bit later. So yeah, just went around randomly placing different bits of enrichment. I did like the idea of having a jetty out onto this small pond, and I'm just sort of like mapping where I want everything to kind of go. Obviously I'll have to make some changes because when they're pressed up against the wall they're not usable. So that's something I'll do a bit later. I want a waterfall going into the water, so that's the section I'm doing here, slash also being part of the cave where they can go and sleep in and kind of get their way out of view from the guests, which is quite important to give your creatures a bit of like a private section so they're not feeling like stressed, because it can be quite stressful being watched all the time, and especially with like it being a lower down enclosure, everything's looking from above towards you, which is quite characteristic of a predator in a sense, especially if it's like an ambush one or if it's a bird kind of predator. I feel like they won't have too much to fear in the sense of that kind of side of things, but nevertheless it's still probably not that nice for the animal to be constantly watched from above, so they do need that little hiding space, so that's why I've gone and added that there. It looks quite nice, and I'm going to be decorating it a fair bit more later on into the video. Right now I'm just doing some of the foliage that I want. I want it to be quite dense, but not too dense that you can't see it. It also breaks up lines of sight. I'm trying to make it so you can see into the pool pretty much all the time, but then around the edges there's plenty of extra hiding areas. The plants, like I said, it breaks up line of sight. It makes for some interesting screenshots or like viewing points a little bit later on when the enclosure is complete. And I just feel like adding like lots of different plants here and there as well, just to break up the ground a wee bit. Makes it look nice. The bit that isn't concreted as well, I added a few water plants on the floor. I feel like it just sort of like adds to the look. It looks quite nice. I get a shot bit later on and it looks really nice with the reptile swimming through down to the open pond. You got a little bit of like plant matter growing in the water. So it only doesn't take me too long to do this. I don't always like going absolutely crazy with plants, because sometimes, especially when the creature's pretty low to the ground like these monitors, they are going to be hard to see, especially if I'm like filling it up with loads of grass. So I kind of stuck with some of the terrain brush rather than adding my own grass or using the long grass terrain brush, because literally it would be difficult to see if it was on land. Alright in the water, but as you can see it's sort of there when I'm like darting around, that it's led down the ground. If I was to do like plants absolutely everywhere in this closure, you wouldn't see them whatsoever. Probably just a tip of the head, which is, you know, I kind of like to see my creatures when I'm going around my zoo. So as I can see, doing more of the plants around the caves, you know, I'll have to bring out those enrichment pieces because they're not usable at that point. So it's kind of like trying to sort of put in a way that I could easily bring those out a little bit later without having to mess around with too much shrubbery. So that's why you can see me sort of going around from behind it. As well, I did a bar fence all the way around to stop the guests from falling in, because that would be quite painful. So at first I wanted to really do like a mainly glass roof, and then I kind of went against it. I felt like there may be too much glass for this building. I mean, it would have looked right, but I'd have to probably do it like kind of dome shaped, and I did want to keep it kind of square and modernish. So the way I got around it was I did like a glass wall all the way around, with then on the roof some like glass windows, so it's got a fair bit of sunlight coming in from different angles, which kind of gives it that greenhouse look, but I kind of keep that modern aesthetic. I know you can make like the hexagon sort of shit, like golf ball style builds, but then I didn't want that. I wanted to keep that square look. So I do like, if you've probably seen any of my videos, you'll know that I do like making square enclosures. The main reason for that, I do like building in grids. To me, it's just aesthetically pleasing to build in a grid. Sometimes I try and vary from it and make it so it's not so square-like, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, why are you always building squares? Why not add some like curves and like different motions going on the barriers and things like that? But yeah, honestly, just like the Romans, I like building in squares because it's just nice. It's just, you can do like very simple paths. I'll do like the grid style, makes things easier to get around, gives you kind of like almost a 360 view as well. But I do sometimes get out of it, but in case of this build, I kept it square. It's nice, it's simple, I can fit it into the majority of my zoos. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. The enclosure will be on the workshop if you feel like you want to add it to your zoos. Let me know if you do go and add it to your zoos. It'd be ace to see if you do any modifications to it, what you change to it, or if you use this building for a completely different animal. Anyways, thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later, and I'll let you enjoy this shot where I go all the way around the building.